Hi, my name is LK Way. I am the wellness writer for the True Age Now blog, as well as the wellness coach for my own personal wellness brand, Well House. And today I want to talk to you about consistent air hunger. So for those of you that don't know what air hunger is, it's when you feel like you can't breathe. You consistently have to gasp for air because you feel like you can't breathe. You feel like you're not getting enough oxygen. I experienced this when I had an overstressed nervous system. My nerves were so severely stressed that I ended up having panic attacks back to back out of nowhere. I was just cleaning my house one day and out of nowhere I had a panic attack. I didn't even know it was a panic attack. I actually thought it was some type of heart issue because that's the way it felt. I was just cleaning my house and my heart started beating really fast. I had like a numbing sensation in the back of my head. I felt a little shaky. I just felt all shook up on the inside. And that landed me in the emergency room, which they didn't find anything wrong. And then I went home to go right back to the urgent care the next day. So long story short, there's so many other different symptoms that I had, but this was by far one of the most annoying symptoms that I had. So I want to take a moment to talk about this specific symptom. So what did I do to get over it? Well, there's a couple of things I did. And just to give you a little bit more of what my experience was, all day for about a span of about 2 weeks, I was walking around like this because I felt like I couldn't breathe. That actually made me go to the emergency room again. So when I had my first panic attack, I went to the emergency room. Everything was fine. I had many different symptoms that I'm not going to get into in this video, but this particular symptom, the onset of it, landed me in the emergency room because feeling like I couldn't get enough breath, feeling like I couldn't get enough air or a big enough breath made me think that something was possibly wrong with my lungs because I had that sensation. I went to the emergency room. I was looking at the machine, and the machine said that my lung capacity was like 98%, which is very good. Now, and it wasn't 100, but 98 means you can breathe. So I was very baffled by this. I'm like, how do I have the sensation like I can't breathe? And I feel like I can't breathe. And I'm literally having to take constant big gulps of air because I feel like I'm not getting enough breath. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why that is, but I really want to focus the video on how you can overcome this. And the reason why is if you have an overstressed nervous system to the point where you're having all these different symptoms, anxiety being one of the symptoms. And I know a lot of times anxiety is characterized as a disease or what gets treated, but anxiety really shouldn't be what the focus on because anxiety is just, or at least in regards to having an overstressed nervous system. So if you have an overstressed nervous system and you're stuck in the fight or flight state, which means that your body is consistently responding like you're in an emergency, anxiety can be a byproduct of that. And that was the case for me. I got anxiety because I didn't understand what was happening in my body. And like I said before, I had many different other symptoms. But in this video, I'm only talking about the constant air hunger. So the doctor told me, he's like, it could be anxiety. Everything's fine. They took my blood work. And when I went to the emergency room for the constant air hunger, I was in a state of panic. I was very anxious. I was very afraid. I felt like at any moment I was going to pass out because that was how great the sensation was of me feeling like I couldn't breathe. It turned out that before I even went to the emergency room, I visited my PCP for the same issue. I told her, look, I feel like I can't breathe. Sometimes I can't talk through conversation. Like when I would try to have a conversation with someone, I would be like I had just finished running, and I hadn't just finished running. But my body was thinking that I was being chased by a bear or lying because it was stuck in a fight or flight. So my parasympathetic system, which is a system that is in charge of easing you into a state of rest. It does affect your breathing. It affects your heart rate. It affects your digestive system. So for those of you that are experiencing this, it may be because most likely your parasympathetic system is not functioning properly. And that is why you can feel the sensation of not being able to breathe, even though you can breathe. You can feel the sensation of your heart beating really fast, even though your heart is actually fine. Of course, I'm not a medical professional, so this is something that you want to visit your doctor for, excuse me, and make sure that you speak to your doctor and make sure that you don't really indeed have something serious, like make sure that you actually can breathe, make sure that you really don't have a heart issue. But when I went to the emergency room for this particular issue for the constant air hunger, because I felt like I couldn't breathe, previously when I visited my PCP, I was prescribed an inhaler. I was so shook up and so overridden with anxiety, I wasn't even able to effectively use the inhaler. But nonetheless, I was waiting for blood work from my PCP when I went to this emergency room visit. I was also waiting for a scan that I had took of my lungs to make sure that there wasn't anything happening in my lungs, because that's how severe it was. I genuinely felt like I couldn't breathe. I constantly had to grasp for air. At one point, I had to think about breathing, and I couldn't talk through conversation. So when I landed myself, or when these symptoms landed me in the emergency room, because I felt like I couldn't breathe because I had the consistent air hunger, I had just visited my PCP probably days earlier, and I was awaiting those results. As a matter of fact, I was calling her because I was trying to get the results, because I felt so terrible. I felt this consistent air hunger. I felt like I was just going to pass out. It was the most agonizing feeling, one of the most agonizing symptoms I've had with the whole ordeal of having an overstressed nervous system. This was probably one of the most irritating and agitating symptoms I experienced. I was actually on my way to pick up my kids from my mother's house when I called my PCP. I could barely talk on the phone. Actually, I couldn't talk on the phone because I felt like I couldn't breathe. I had to give the phone to my husband. Who asked them, listen, does she have her results back? Because she's feeling like she can't breathe. Unfortunately, my doctor that was her day off. So they're like, listen, we'll try to track her down, but you need to take her to the emergency room. She feels like she can't breathe. So I went to the emergency room, and that's when the doctor plugged me up to the machine, and I saw that I was actually breathing at 98%. In the emergency room, I felt good and I felt bad at the same time, because I'm like, okay, if I can breathe, what the heck is wrong with me where I feel like I cannot breathe? And like I explained before, this happens when your parasympathetic system is not functioning properly. It's a part of your nervous system that's in charge of ushering you into a state of rest. It's also coined or nicknamed the rest and digest system, because and you don't necessarily have to have an emergency. This system is active anyway when we're trying to rest and calm down. But it's especially important when we have an emergency, like a real emergency where maybe there is something chasing us, or there's something that is rightfully a fight, that rightfully warrants a fight or flight response. So whether it be you're almost about to get in a car accident, so you slam on your brakes, or someone is threatening you, and you have to figure out really quick to fight or flight, to fight or run, whatever. That system is supposed to come in after you come out of that serious situation and calm you down. In the event that system is not working properly, you will experience constant air hunger, along with many other symptoms. When I was in the emergency room, I went to YouTube and I'm like, I got to get rid of this, because I can't, this is tormenting. I did find a guy's video that helped. So I'm going to share what he shared, as well as some other things. One of the things that I had to do is I had to deep breathe many times throughout the day. So about 3 to 4 times throughout the day, I had to sit down or lay down. I actually, at this point in time, I'd lay down on my bed. I'd lay down and I would just take a deep breath in. I would take a deep breath in. I would fill up my diaphragm, and I would exhale through my mouth. So I would inhale through my nose, fill up my diaphragm, exhale through my mouth. I had to do that for about 15 to 25 minutes sometimes, many times throughout the day. This is one of the things I did. I'm going to tell you all the things that I did, because it was a culmination of things. It wasn't just one thing. So I did that. I did that throughout the day. And please understand that you're going to have to do the things that I'm saying before you find the relief. The relief was not immediate. I had to deal with this after the emergency room visit for about 2 weeks or so, straight, all day, feeling like I couldn't breathe. So just keep that in mind. But if you do this, it will help you because you're manually stimulating that parasympathetic system to calm down. It's supposed to work on its own. But in the event that your nervous system is overstressed or de-stressed, because of many different things can cause that, you have to get it to manually, you have to manually stimulate it by doing the things I'm going to say. So you have to deep breathe. You have to take about 10 to 25 minutes. I laid across my bed. If it's more comfortable for you, you can sit upright, or not upright, I'm sorry, but kind of like this, like leaning back in a chair, not upright. Don't sit upright. Don't do that. But I had to sit like this. So this was a chair. This chair is a chair that I use sometimes when I do my deep breathing. I actually still deep breathe. I laid across my bed and I took deep breaths for about 20, 25 minutes. And I'd get up and I would feel a little bit of relief, but it would come back. Throughout the day, it would come back. And then I did this about 4 to 5 times. And I need you to understand the mindset behind this. So when you're doing this deep breathing or diaphragm breathing, you have to understand it's a type of, I have to be careful saying medicine, but you can kind of look at it like a type of medicine or like a type of therapy, right? So if you have a broken leg, you go to physical therapy and you're taking sessions to help your leg. Your leg does not magically heal after one session or in the middle of that session. You have to do many sessions because it takes many sessions to help with that leg, right? Many sessions to help with that bone. It's the same for the constant air hunger. So I need you to understand that after you do 1 session or 2 sessions, it's not something that's just going to go away like that, because you are treating your nervous system. You're getting it, you're stimulating it manually to work properly. So this takes a little bit of time. So heads up there, all right? I was going through this for about 2.5 weeks. It may not be that way for you. It may be shorter or longer. I don't know. But understand that as you begin to do this, you are helping yourself not have to go through this anymore. Another thing that I did to help me was I would shift my thinking. I found it so agonizing to go throughout the day and feel like I couldn't breathe. And I would just find myself so bothered by it. And I would be thinking about it. Don't think about it. Try to, especially when you start getting very annoyed by it, maybe you have a conversation you need to have. Maybe you have things you need to do. This was very debilitating because it did intervene with my ability to do things. I couldn't do things because of this. So I know how aggy this is and how annoying and how much it disturbs your daily life. But if you do the things that I'm saying, you will get better. And again, I'm not a medical professional, so please do not take what I'm saying for medical advice. This is to help you with what you've already determined to be wrong by your medical professional, right? So when you're watching this video, and I have to say this because I really don't want anyone taking this information and they haven't went through the proper channels to make sure this is what they're indeed dealing with. So the next thing I did, so I deep breathe until it went away, about 4 to 5 times throughout the day. I just picked different times in the day that were convenient for me where I deep breathe for about 10 to 25 minutes. Also, when you're doing your deep breathing, do not think about how you can't breathe. You need to deep breathe with the mindset of understanding that this is helping me. That's why I took the time to explain to you what you're doing when you do this. When you do your deep breathing, you are manually stimulating your parasympathetic system to allow you to rest so that your breathing is not so erratic. It's sending false signals that you can't breathe when you can't breathe. For those of you who have went to the doctor, that is why, like me, when I went to the emergency room, you're looking at that you can breathe fine. I took a scan of my lungs. There was nothing wrong with my lungs. You can breathe, but your nervous system is sending false information because it thinks you're in a state of emergency when you're not. So you have to communicate to your body, I am okay. And you have to do that by stimulating your parasympathetic system manually, right? All right. Another thing I did is I did box breathing. Now, box breathing is something that you have to be very careful with box breathing, because box breathing can trigger a panic attack. That's something that you're also dealing with. I had back-to-back panic attacks. So when I did my box breathing, I did my box breathing for no longer than about 3 minutes. No, 3 to 5 minutes. And I did them with a combination of deep breathing. I have a breathing course on my website that's free. So if you want to take that course, I give a little bit more information about breathing to help you with this. It's a free course. I do have a course for anyone who's going through severely overstressed nerves where you can't work. You have very debilitating symptoms, which I have that available as well. That's not a free course. That's a way more intense course. It's like a 7-week course. So for you that are where it's intervening with your life and you can't work, you can't attend to your household duties, your life has been completely disrupted, that's something that you can take advantage of. But for the constant air hunger, this was so annoying. This was so aggy. This was just one of the most annoying things that I had to deal with. So I have that free breathing course that you can take to help you. So, and I talk about box breathing in that course. But the way I did my box breathing is I inhaled through my nose, filled up my diaphragm. I held it. I did not hold it for no more than 3 to 4 seconds. When I tried to hold it for more than 3 to 4 seconds, I would nearly trigger myself into a panic attack. If you're not having consistent back-to-back panic attacks, then you may be able to hold it longer. But I definitely wouldn't go longer than about 6 to 7, because you don't want to make things worse. You want to communicate to your nervous system, yes, I can breathe, but you don't want to exasperate it. So personally, I did no more than 3 to 4 seconds. Definitely no more than 5. I would breathe in through my nose, hold it, exhale slowly. Oh, it felt so good to exhale. It still feels good to exhale. Hold it. And then I'd breathe in again through my nose, hold it, exhale, hold it. And then I do that again for about 3 to 5 minutes. Then after I would be done with my box breathing, I would then rest and breathe normal. And breathing normal might sound utterly impossible for you because at one point it was for me. So how I would try to get myself to breathe normal is I would have to walk myself through it. So I would have to just take a deep breath in through your nose, slowly exhale through your mouth. And when I would breathe regular, it wouldn't be the deep breaths where I'm filling up my diaphragm to the maximum that I can fill it up. I would just breathe in, breathe out, and make sure that when you're breathing that you are filling up your diaphragm when you breathe. A lot of people do not breathe correctly. And to help me make sure that I was not thinking too much or overthinking it, because I actually had to think about breathing. So I had to walk myself through regular breathing. When I was going through this, I would count. I would focus on the counting more than the breathing. So what does that look like? That looks like in my head, when I'm breathing in, counting in my head to 4 or 5. So you're breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing in, 1, 2. And I do that for a couple of times. And then I transition into deep breathing, which I would do for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I would do that. Now, the box breathing, I didn't do as much as I did the deep breathing, where I'd lay on my bed and do that for 4 to 5 times a day. I would just deep breathe. And typically, I would stop what I was doing and do that, especially when I felt overwhelmed by the symptoms. The symptoms would fluster me. I would just get so flustered by this. I just wanted to break out and cry, because it felt like no matter what I did, I could not get any relief. No matter what I did, nothing brought me relief. All day and all night, I was going through this. And I like, just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy that I'm not going through that anymore. And you won't either. You won't either. Just do the things that I'm saying in this video. This is how you stimulate your parasympathetic system to work. Again, please make sure that there's nothing else wrong. Make sure that it is indeed, they may classify it as anxiety, because that's what they classified me as having, anxiety. My doctor, my PCP actually looked me in my face and said, oh, it's not your nerves. But I found a book by a doctor. I felt like the Lord literally led me to this book by Claire Weeks called Help and Healing for Your Nerves. She's a doctor who went through this. She's a doctor who actually treated a lot of patients that had what she called sick nerves, which I love that term because that's exactly what it is. The nervous system isn't working properly. And because of her and the Lord, I'm able to get back to living my life and doing many things that I couldn't do. So I really hope this helps with your consistent air hunger. I just want to encourage you that you will get through this. Absolutely. I got through it, and you will get through it as well. All right. Have a good day.